Story 1. Does it count if you are in bed for 8 hours but get patchy sleep, like sleeping for 2 hours, waking up, then falling asleep again for 2 hours and repeating? Because that is how I sleep. Story 2. I get up for work around 4:45 every morning. As I get older, I feel terrible if I don't get a good amount of sleep. I have to make myself go to sleep around 8 or 9, but in the morning, I feel much better throughout my day than I used to when I didn't regulate my sleep. Story 3. Consistent routine. My sleep noticeably improved after eating the same thing for breakfast for a couple of months. Story 4. A consistent schedule where I wake up, go to bed, and eat at roughly the same time each day. Do not watch television in bed. Avoid computers, phones, and tablet screens after 9 p.m. Avoid caffeine after 2 p.m. Get enough exercise and physical activity during the day. I also spend a few minutes researching meditation techniques and quickly learned that quieting your inner voice is as easy as 1. Knowing that it is counterproductive if it keeps you awake, and 2. Just relaxing your mind will quiet it. With a little practice, it becomes second nature. Story 5. That's just how some people are. People need different amounts of sleep to function. I get 7.75 hours every night. Story 6. I prioritize it. I also stick to a schedule. I rarely sleep in. I go to bed at 9 or 9:30, usually asleep by 10:30. I get up at 6:30 or 6:45. Story 7. As a chronic 6.5, if I am lucky 7-hour sleeper, and even luckier if the stars, moons, and galaxies align, and I can sleep throughout the night, I am jealous of people who consistently get 8 hours of sleep. Story 8. Narcolepsy. Unfortunately, my brain has decided that no amount of sleep will be restorative. I am in the 3rd month of a medication regimen that helps many people with narcolepsy attain restful sleep. I fear I may not be among those it helps. Story 9. Go to bed early consistently. No caffeine after 12 p.m. Cold and dark room. Sleep alone. Story 10. No caffeine or sugar after 1 p.m. Work and workout. Take dogs to the park outside. I am asleep before my head hits the pillow. Story 11. I've cut my caffeine intake to 1 cup in the morning with 0 sugar and carbohydrates throughout the day. I have also learned to use controlled breathing to fall asleep, which helps me get deep sleep. I used to wake up at the slightest noise or light, but now I do not wake up until 8 to 9 a.m. I feel pretty worn out and tired in the evening due to my weight training and 90 minutes of cardiovascular exercise. I complete 3 sets of 30 minutes throughout the day, usually finishing my workouts by 3 to 4 p.m. Story 12. I am way past the having babies stage, but I went through that with 5 of them. I am consistent with when I go to bed and when I get up. I put on my continuous positive airway pressure machine, cover up, and zone out. Story 13. I chose a life on my terms. No children tops the list. You cannot beat a good night's sleep. On weekends, you can sleep in. Choose wisely. Story 14. The only 2 people I know who get great sleep were raised in extremely stable, loving, moderately wealthy families. Attentive parents and as little trauma as one can incur. They do not procrastinate or have unhealthy or destructive habits. Makes me sick. Story 15. I go to bed at 9 p.m. each night and wake up at 5 a.m. Stay consistent and enjoy being well-rested every day. I am 43 years old, married, and have a teenager. Story 16. Stick to a routine sleep and wake schedule that suits you. Get out of bed as soon as you wake up. If you only need 6 or 7 hours of sleep, do not force yourself to sleep longer. Avoid reading, watching television, or using your phone in bed. Condition yourself to associate the bed only with sleep and, if you are lucky, with intimacy. Story 17. Wake up at 5. Take dog on 2-mile walk. Go on 5-mile run. Work. Then gym after work. By after dinner, I am tired and need to sleep. Story 18. Reluctantly, continuous positive airway pressure, love-hate relationship. I hate wearing it, but I literally cannot sleep without it. When I wear it, I am usually asleep within a few minutes. Story 19. Easy. Take your right hand. Trust me on this. Move it away from your body, make a fist, and wind it to your face. Bam! Out cold for 8 hours. Story 20. I work from home, so I never set an alarm. I go to bed when I feel tired, usually between 10 and 11, and let my body wake up naturally, usually between 6 and 7. Story 21. The army taught me many things. How to go to sleep in even the most difficult situations is among the top of the list. Story 22. I decided not to have children, and I go to bed no later than 10 p.m. Sometimes, self-stimulation can help with falling asleep. Story 23. Eddie's, book reading, and making it known to all my friends that I am home by 7:30 and in bed by 8:30. Also, read before you go to sleep. That puts me to sleep very quickly. It is hard to read at night when you are tired. I drift off about the 10-minute mark. I do have to choose books that do not make me anxious for this to work. Every time I choose a game or website on my phone, I am up another hour or two. It is the same way I did it as a kid before smartphones. Story 24. I have been retired for 10 years and can now go to bed at midnight without worries about raising children, volunteering as a school chaperone, or juggling work schedules and stress. All I have to do now is manage my pain. Story 25. I always sleep between 7 and 8 hours. I just fall asleep quickly. I do not know why, but I think it is great. I also fall asleep really fast, like less than 5 minutes after I lie down. Story 26. I wake up at 4:30 a.m. Monday to Friday and have to be in bed by 8:30 p.m. in order to feel rested the next day. I do not use social media, so I do not spend time browsing my phone like others. I have no light in my room, no television, and no devices. I am in my mid-30s, but this routine has helped me. Story 27. I get 7 to 9 hours of sleep on average. I go to bed early and do not have fear of missing out. I walk at least 2 miles in the evening. I keep my bedroom as cool as possible with blackout shades. I do not have children. Story 28. Routine. I work out 6 days a week. Between that and work, I am in bed by 9 p.m. and asleep by 10. I get 8 hours of sleep every night. Story 29. Your answer is in the title. Consistency. If you are single, that is all it takes, or at least the discipline to do so. Story 30. It is financially unstable. You cannot eat what you want, visit people, or be yourself while trying to live according to other people's demands. Story 31. Shower around 9:30 and in bed by 10. Usually asleep in 5 minutes or so. Wake up around 6:30 because the sun is up. Story 32. I started taking magnesium glycinate every night before bed, and it fixed my sleep. I have 3 children, all over 10 years old, and I had not slept well since they were born. Story 33. You have 2 types of tiredness, physical and mental. If they are out of balance, you will not be able to sleep well. Try going for a 15 to 30-minute walk after dinner. It will help you process your experiences from the day and burn off some energy. Story 34. You have to go to bed earlier, period. When I stay up later than I should, I remind myself, if I don't fall asleep soon, I'll only get 7 hours, then 6, then 5, and it becomes harder to drift off. I also like to listen to a television show on my phone while falling asleep. Keeps me from thinking too much. It stops playing after a few episodes anyway and does not disturb me later. Story 35. I take ZZZquil, magnesium, and Neuropoe because I have jumpy legs that often feel like electric jolts. I go to bed between 8 and 9 p.m. each night and wake up between 5 and 6 a.m. Unfortunately, it doesn't really feel like I slept. I fall asleep, then wake up without feeling rested, and I do not dream. However, if I do not follow this routine, I will be awake all night. Story 36. A small amount of various pills, not enough to affect the head, but enough to keep the body and especially the mind from being too active. I am 70 years old, and a quiz I recently took made it clear that 8 hours of sleep will allow you to live longer and healthier. I understand that. Story 37. Sauna before bed. No caffeine after noon. Very rarely drink alcohol. No food after 8 p.m. Sunlight on my face for 5 or 10 minutes every morning. Story 38. I get as much sleep as I need by being childless and having discipline. Seriously, if you need more sleep than you are getting, have more discipline. Get off the phone. Do not watch television before bed. Calm your brain down. Do not bring it up. Story 39. Imagine staying on your feet for more than 10 hours at work, with a few shifts of only 5 hours of sleep. You will understand why people would rather go to sleep. Story 40. Do not take naps, do not drink alcohol, and go to bed between 9:30 and 10 p.m. I used to nap and have drinks every day after work. Poor sleep, poor health, work felt like a chore, my face was swollen, and it was hard to stay in shape. Story 41. Keeping a very strict bedtime and staying disciplined by closing my eyes and lying down, even if I do not feel like sleeping. If I stick to these two practices, I consistently get 8 hours of sleep quite easily. Story 42. No children, no caffeine, no alcohol, and a work-from-home job that means I do not have to get up until 7 to 8 a.m. So going to bed between 11 p.m. and midnight is perfect. Story 43. I go to bed at around 8:30 p.m. and I get up at 7 a.m. I go to bed much later on weekends, but it does not matter because I am always tired. Story 44. Go to bed at 10:15, usually fall asleep by 10:30, set 3 alarms. One at 6 a.m., another at 6:15 a.m., and a final one at 6:30 a.m. By the time the third alarm goes off, I am awake enough to get out of bed. Story 45. I have a routine that I perform every night. Most importantly, I go to bed at nearly the same time every night, both on weeknights and weekends. Story 46. In bed early. My wife and I hang out for a bit after we put the children to bed. On average, I am in bed by 9:30 and asleep by 10. I also work from home and do not need to be up until 7:50. Story 47. Bedtime is the time to shut off the world you know and read something enjoyable. Listen to music that you like. If you go online, find a podcast or some kind of online material that brings you insights, laughter, meditation, or anything deemed good. If your neighborhood is safe to walk at night, take a nice walk. Maybe do some stretches or yoga. Add 2 to 3 tablets of sleep aid sleeping pills from Costco. They are affordable and non-addictive. Story 48. Consistency and habit are key. Get into bed at the same time every night. Put your phone away at least 1 hour before you want to sleep. Do not eat within 2 hours of bedtime. This is very important. When you're in bed, turn off the lights and let melatonin work its magic. If you need light, use candles or night lights. Invest in nice pillows and comfortable bedding. Make your place of rest an oasis. It's an investment in yourself. Read a book in bed. If your mind is racing, make a to-do or to-worry list for the next day. The purpose of sleep is to heal and prepare for the next day. You can address your concerns when you're well-rested and better able to take action. Bedding can be expensive, but everything else on this list you can do immediately. I hope you find restful sleep, my friend. Story 49. It is 2:40 a.m. here. I went to bed at 11 p.m. I want to be up by 6 a.m. I am seriously considering going for a drive. Story 50. My sleep consistency is excellent now that I am getting older, but I do not get 8 hours. More like 7.5. That is fine for me. I achieve this by consistently going to bed at 11 p.m. and waking up at 6:30 a.m. Story 51. Being a content sinner, alcohol, chaos, and earthquakes. I can sleep through a parade, but thanks to a fast-paced college life and this day and age, I am happy-go-lucky if I get 5 hours of sleep. Story 52. I write stories in my head before bed as I fall asleep, so I go to bed on time to see what happens next in the story. Story 53. No compromising with it. Never barter with yourself. Don't say, well, if I just play for 1 more hour, it shouldn't be that bad. Not because 1 hour less sleep is harmful, but because consistency is the key. Story 54. My wife got pregnant and we discovered Unisom. It is great. I do not usually struggle with sleep but have bad nights like anyone else, and Unisom helps you fall asleep without the negative side effects of diphenhydramine or NyQuil. Story 55. Marijuana never helped me recreationally. It has changed my entire adult life from sleeping in 90-minute increments to only waking up twice a night. Smoking is awful for me, so I use gummies or vape. It may sound bad, but it is truly life-changing. Story 56. I started working out as soon as I finished work. By the time I get home from the gym, shower, and eat, I am exhausted. I smoke some cannabis and watch a movie, and I am basically asleep before 11 p.m. Story 57. I go to bed at 10:30 in a 68-degree and completely dark room. I get up between 6:30 and 7 o'clock, often waking up just before my alarm normally goes off. Story 58. Easy. Tired in the evening? Go to bed and go to sleep. Do not feel obligated to keep yourself awake. You really do not need late-night television. Go to sleep when you are tired. Then, if you can, sleep until you are fully rested. Your body will appreciate it. I discovered in my senior year of high school that if I get enough sleep, I basically never get sick and do not have many problems. So I began to develop that pattern, that habit then. My friends would laugh at me in college for always going to bed early, but it really paid off both short-term and long-term. One of my goals in life was never to have to set an alarm clock. I have pretty much accomplished that. Story 59. I just set bedtime boundaries for myself. If I am out and about, I say my goodbyes and leave. Story 60. No eating within 2 to 3 hours of bedtime. Put it away, whatever it is. Make sure your room is dark and quiet or has soft pink or white noise, depending on your preference. Set the optimal temperature. Meditate by focusing on your breathing and clearing your mind. This routine helps me fall asleep quickly. I am also one of those individuals who can get up and function with little sleep. Story 61. It all starts with mathematics. If I need to wake at 6 a.m., then I go to bed at 9:30 p.m. so I can fall asleep by 10 p.m. Story 62. Melatonin and magnesium before bed. Exercising almost every day. Going to sleep at the same time every night. Avoiding screens before bed. And using the blue light filter on your devices. Story 63. If you find yourself lying in bed with an active brain, try scrambling it. I learned this from an online community this year, and it has been a game changer. I play a game where I think of a word, then another that starts with the last letter of the previous word, and so on. For example, ship, pizza, Amsterdam, monster. The random and disconnected nature helps the brain drift into a dreamlike state before sleep. Do not get hung up on following the rules. If you start thinking too much, just start over with a new word in your head or pick an easier letter from the last word you thought of. I hope this helps. Story 64. I used to wake up a lot during the night. Then I was diagnosed with sleep apnea, which was probably what was waking me up. I use a continuous positive airway pressure machine now and sleep 8 hours with the machine every night. I feel so much better. Story 65. Do not eat dairy or drink alcohol too close to bedtime. The blue light from your phone can keep you awake. Either use a blue light filter on your phone or avoid using your phone several hours before bed. Have a winding down routine. Story 66. I have always been an early to bed, early to rise person. When I was in my late teens and early 20s, my friends would all be ready to go out and party just as I was getting ready for bed. I guess I have never lost that routine. Bed by 10 o'clock p.m. and up around 7 o'clock a.m. Story 67. No children, no husband, no drugs, alcohol, or caffeine. I work from home, have a very small circle of friends, and give myself lots of self-love with good food and good exercise. I also take magnesium glycinate, L-theanine, and ashwagandha before bed. Story 68. By being tired and having a consistent routine, as well as using melatonin. Science shows that 8 hours of sleep at once is not ideal. Instead, sleep should be divided into 2 or 3 segments. A total of about 8 hours is beneficial. Story 69. I get 6.5 to 7.5 hours of sleep consistently, but it took a lot of work. I cut back on caffeine, eliminated alcohol almost completely, found the right amount of melatonin, practiced deep breathing, and drank a big glass of water. I also took magnesium glycinate for a while, I force myself to prioritize sleep as well. Story 70. It is not the amount of sleep that matters. It is the quality of sleep. I feel the same after 4 hours of sleep as I do after 16. Yes, I sleep for 16 hours every now and then. That is insomnia for you. Story 71. Not always 8, but 95% of the time 7 hours. How? Going to bed early. Getting up early. I am a night person. Sometimes I cannot get to bed early. If I go to bed late, I get up late. You adjust your schedule. Listen to Benjamin Franklin. Early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Story 72. I forgot where I read this, but you do not actually need an exact 8 hours of sleep. The calculation for 8 hours is not a straightforward count from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. From what I have read and practiced, if you sleep before 12 a.m., the hours are multiplied by 2. For example, if you sleep at 10 p.m. and wake up at 4 a.m., you get enough sleep equivalent to 8 hours. I have been practicing this for almost 10 years now, sleeping before 10 p.m. and waking around 4 a.m. for work and exercise. Then, during the day, take a power nap around lunchtime if possible. Story 73. I try my best to fall asleep, which is not an easy task for me. Ideally, if my sleep environment is quiet, I have nothing scheduled in the morning, and I do not wake up earlier than I want, I will sleep more than 8 hours. That applies to the summer. The academic year is a different story. I regularly sleep less than 8 hours. Story 74. I work 12 hours, 7 days a week. Either get my 8 hours of sleep or suffer through the next day is good enough motivation for me. Story 75. I work hard all day and feel like I pass out at night. I go to bed early and wake up early. If I do not have a good dinner, I might wake up and not be able to get back to sleep. I usually have to get up once to urinate, but I always go to sleep as soon as I hit the pillow. Story 76. 1. Do not have children. Be very active. Avoid screens when the sun goes down. Eat on a schedule. Eat healthy foods. Story 77. I have to stick to a schedule. Even if I cannot turn my brain off, I am in bed by 11 p.m. and wake up at 7:30 a.m. The body eventually gets used to it. Story 78. Early bed, early rise. Make it a routine even on weekends. It is difficult the first couple of months, but once your body gets the memo, it is bliss. I fall asleep within minutes every day. Oh, and do not have kids or a partner or a social life. Bliss. Story 79. Start by making your sleeping area right. Everything matters. Bed size, mattress type, sheets, pillows, wall colors, ventilation, and bed positioning. Consider the time between eating or drinking and going to bed, what you have consumed, your pre-sleep activities, and how long before attempting to sleep you go to bed. Also, consider meditation and relaxation techniques. There are many things you can do to help yourself sleep better. If you still struggle, many hospitals have sleep laboratories and can offer medical advice. Story 80. Hey, original poster. Sobriety, sleep hygiene, no screens or food a few hours before bed, and a consistent bedtime help. Keep your phone out of reach from bed to avoid temptation to pick it up in the middle of the night. Also, keep a pen and paper next to your bed in case you need to write down any worries that make you overthink things at 2 a.m. I am 49 years old, and it has taken me most of my life to figure this out. Story 81. Consistently laugh out loud. I average 8, but sometimes I am up all night. Sometimes I wake up halfway through the night, ride my exercise bike for half an hour, and go back to bed to sleep the remaining time. Story 82. Several things. There's not one thing that works. I used to struggle to fall asleep, but now I'm asleep within minutes of my head hitting the pillow. The first thing I did was separate everything. My bed is the bed. I go to sleep. I don't watch television or browse social media. I get in it to sleep, and once I am awake, I am out of it. I can still be slow at that, but it's not the place I relax. The second thing I did was define when I want to be asleep and build a schedule around that. I want to sleep between 10 and 11 p.m., but I must be awake to head to work at 5 a.m., so I built it all around that. Third, I take few, if any, naps. Many people I know who struggle with sleeping also nap during the day. I do nap, but only when I know I want to stay awake until late and I can catch up later. Fourth, I consume food and drinks in moderation. I drink water half an hour before bed, stop drinking soda 1 hour before bed, and usually drink the last cup of coffee at about 2 p.m. The last thing I eat is usually 3 to 4 hours before bed. When I go to bed, there is no food left to process in my stomach. Fifth, screens. I won't browse news, doom scroll, or anything right before going to bed. But I definitely won't do anything in complete darkness. I see this many times too. Have a night light and browse endlessly with that on. But once the lights are off, the phone is down. Sixth, consistency. I struggled the first few months of this. I could not get into a routine, but I was determined to do it. Now I can't get out of it. My body gets tired when it needs to, and I wake up on my own around 6 a.m. I never used to be this way, but now I am, and I feel much better overall. A lot of people seem to focus on one or two of these things, but it's not just one thing. It's a combination of small things you need to focus on. If you think there is just one big trick, you'll end up suffering through nights of endless wakefulness and days of feeling tired. Story 83. I have an alarm on my phone that tells me when to get ready for bed, and another alarm to wake up. I'm in bed by 8 to 9 p.m. and up by 4:30 to 5 a.m. I have depression and fibromyalgia. I need to maintain a consistent sleep schedule to avoid a flare. Story 84. I have a routine. I get in bed by 9 p.m., take my melatonin, turn on a history podcast, and am usually asleep by 9:30 p.m. Story 85. I go to bed 8 hours before I have to get up for work. That does not mean I am getting 8 hours of sleep, however. A large part of trying is going to bed at an appropriate time. Do I want to go to bed at 8 or 9? No, not at all. Is it responsible to do so? Yes. That is really it right there. Story 86. Better question. For those of you who do not have children, how are you not getting 8 or more hours of sleep? Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.